Welcome back to the channel Rare Coins History, where we dig deep into the stories, secrets, and surprises hidden in your pocket change. Today, we're unlocking the mystery behind one of the most surprising coins in American numismatic history, the 1982 Washington quarter dollar. At first glance, it might look like just another quarter, but trust me, this little coin hides a massive secret. If you've got one of these hiding in your old change jar, you'll want to watch this video very closely. Let's get into it. Let's rewind back to 1982. The United States was in the middle of a recession. The economy was tight, the government was making budget cuts, and even the US Mint was feeling the pressure. That year, something unusual happened. They stopped producing proof sets for collectors, and more importantly, they made a major change in the way quarters were minted. In 1982, the Mint decided to stop putting mint marks on some of the coins made at the Philadelphia Mint. That means many quarters from that year were struck without the usual P mint mark. Combine that with the fact that quality control was reduced due to budget constraints, and what you get is a perfect storm for rarity, oddities, and valuable errors. Let's talk about those minting errors, because this is where things get really exciting. Some 1982 Washington quarters were struck with incomplete or weak designs, missing parts of key details, especially around the date and motto. Others were struck on the wrong planchets, or had off-center strikes. These kinds of errors were much more common in 1982 than usual, and they've become gold for collectors, but here's the twist: most people never noticed. These quarters went straight into circulation and were spent, traded, and lost over the years. Today, finding one in pristine, uncirculated condition, especially with one of these rare errors, is incredibly difficult. That's why collectors are always on the hunt for them. Another thing to keep in mind is that 1982 was also the year the US Mint started transitioning between different compositions and die varieties. So, not only do you have no mint marks and misstrikes to look out for, but there are also different types of die variations, including strong strikes, weak strikes, and sharp detail errors, that are now being recognized as highly collectible. Now, let's talk about the appeal. This isn't just any quarter. It's a piece of American history frozen in time, minted during economic strain, created under rushed conditions, and forgotten by the public, until now. It's a sleeper coin that has suddenly become a star. Collectors love coins like this because they offer the thrill of the hunt. You never know, you could find one in a random roll of quarters from the bank or hiding in a dusty drawer in your grandma's house. The thought that something so ordinary could actually be extraordinary? That's what makes this hobby so addicting. So, what's the big deal about the 1982 Washington quarter dollar? Well, if you happen to have one in uncirculated condition, or better yet, one with a rare error like a missing mint mark or off-center strike, you could be holding a coin that's worth far more than 25 cents. In fact, one of these coins, yes, this same 1982 Washington quarter, was sold to a collector for a jaw-dropping $75,000. That's right. A simple quarter, worth 25 cents at face value, turned into a life-changing payday for someone who knew what to look for. So, go check your coin collections, search your piggy banks, and sort through those old drawers. That ordinary-looking quarter just might be your ticket to something big. Today, because this time, we're diving into the story of a coin that millions of people spent without a second thought, yet today, it could be hiding in your collection, worth a small fortune. We're talking about the 1979 Washington quarter dollar, a coin that might look ordinary at first glance, but has a few secrets that could make it extremely valuable. Let's take a step back to the late 70s. America was dealing with economic shifts, rising inflation, and changes in everyday life. While people were focused on gas prices and disco dancing, the US Mint was quietly producing quarters that would, decades later, become some of the most sought-after coins by collectors. The Washington quarter from 1979 may not be the first coin people think of when they hear rare, but that's exactly what makes it so special. It's the unexpected value that makes collectors go crazy for it. You see, most 1979 quarters were struck in massive quantities for everyday use. They were meant to be spent at vending machines, grocery stores, and gas stations. But, here's where things get interesting: not all of these quarters came out perfect. And that's where rarity and value are born. Some of these quarters were struck with minting errors that were never meant to leave the mint. Errors like off-center strikes, where the design is visibly misaligned. Others were printed on the wrong planchets, which means the coin could be made from a different metal than intended, or even a different size. These are what collectors call wrong metal or planchet error coins, and they are incredibly rare, but that's not all. There are also 1979 quarters with doubled dies, where parts of the design, like the letters or numbers, appear slightly doubled when you look closely. This doubling effect happens when the die shifts slightly during the minting process, and it's a highly prized mistake. Now, let's talk about condition. Most 1979 quarters went through decades of pockets, purses, parking meters, and coin jars. So finding one today in mint, uncirculated condition is already pretty rare. Combine that with a minting error or unique strike, and now you've got something truly special, something collectors dream about. And here's the part that gives every coin hunter chills: you don't need to be a professional numismatist to find one of these. You could find a rare 1979 Washington quarter in a jar of old change at home, tucked away in a forgotten drawer, or mixed in a roll of quarters from the bank. That's the magic of this hobby. Sometimes the most valuable treasures are hiding in plain sight. The 1979 Washington quarter might seem common, but in the right condition, and with the right kind of error, it transforms from a regular piece of currency into a prize worth chasing. Collectors around the world are constantly hunting for these rare examples, and when one surfaces, it can spark bidding wars and make headlines in the numismatic world. So, you might be wondering, what's the actual value of one of these rare 1979 quarters? Well, if you have one in uncirculated condition, and especially if it has a significant error like a wrong planchet, doubled die, or off-center strike, you could be holding a coin that's worth more than you ever imagined. In fact, one of these rare 1979 Washington quarters was once sold for an unbelievable $77,000. That's right, $77,000. All for a coin most people wouldn't think twice about. So don't underestimate the change in your pocket. Take a closer look. You never know what kind of history, rarity, or hidden value might be sitting right in front of you. Today's story is one you won't want to miss. We're diving into the mystery, rarity, and surprising value of a coin that many people have overlooked for years, the 1981 Washington quarter dollar. Now, this coin may seem like just another quarter, the kind you toss in a vending machine or slide into a parking meter without thinking twice. But behind its simple appearance is a world of collector excitement, minting mysteries, and historical quirks that make it far more valuable than its 25-cent face. So, what's so special about the 1981 Washington quarter? Let's start with a bit of context. The early 1980s were a transitional time in U.S. coin production. Technology at the U.S. Mint was improving, but errors still slipped through. And while millions of quarters were made each year, not all were made perfectly. That's where the magic begins. The 1981 Washington quarter was minted in 3 main locations: Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. Most people know about the P, D, and S mint marks, but few realize that even among these common issues, there are rare varieties that drive collectors wild. Now, here's where things get really interesting: errors and die varieties. Some 1981 quarters were struck with off-center designs, where part of the coin's artwork is cut off due to misalignment during the minting process. These coins are immediately noticeable and incredibly collectible, especially when the date is still fully visible. Then, we have double die errors. This happens when the coin is struck more than once, slightly off from the original position, creating a doubled effect on the text or images. Look closely at the word liberty, or the motto, "In God We Trust." If you see doubling, especially clear and bold doubling, you've got something special. But wait, it doesn't stop there. One of the most thrilling error types found in 1981 quarters is the wrong planchet error. This happens when a coin is mistakenly struck on a blank intended for another denomination, like a nickel or a foreign coin. These rare mistakes are like winning the lottery for collectors. They're often lighter or heavier than a regular quarter and can have a slightly different color or size. What makes all of this even more exciting is how ordinary these coins look at first glance. You might not think twice about a 1981 quarter in your change jar. But under a magnifying glass, or in the hands of an expert, it could reveal secrets that make it a numismatic superstar. Now, let's talk condition. This part is crucial. The vast majority of quarters from 1981 have been in circulation for over 40 years. They're scratched, worn, and tossed from pocket to pocket. But finding one in uncirculated condition, with its original shine, sharp details, and no damage, that's a whole different story. Collectors are always on the lookout for coins that are both flawless and unique, and that's exactly what makes the rare 1981 quarter so desirable. Add a minting error to that, and you've got a coin that doesn't just belong in a collection, it belongs in a museum. And here's the fun part, these valuable coins don't just live in private auctions or fancy collections. People have found them in coin rolls from the bank, in old jars of change, even hidden in drawers passed down from grandparents. So yes, it's completely possible that you've handled one of these without even realizing it. So how much can this coin be worth? Well, if you happen to find a 1981 Washington quarter dollar with a rare minting error, especially one in pristine, uncirculated condition, you might be holding something far more than just a piece of pocket change. One of these rare error quarters has been known to sell to an eager collector for a stunning $73,000. That's right, $73,000. All from a coin you could easily overlook if you weren't paying attention. So don't toss your quarters just yet. Take a closer look. That little coin in your hand might just be the key to an incredible story, or a massive payday. Today's video might just blow your mind, because today, we're talking about one of the most surprising and fascinating coins to come out of the 1980s, the 1986 Washington quarter dollar. This isn't just a piece of change you hand over at a vending machine. This is a coin with a secret. A coin with potential value hiding behind its everyday appearance. So, make sure you watch this video all the way to the end, because we're about to explore the kind of coin that collectors dream about, and how one might just be sitting in your pocket right now. Let's travel back to 1986. The United States was in the middle of a cultural shift. The Cold War was winding down, the Space Shuttle Challenger tragedy had shocked the nation, and technology was slowly beginning to change our daily lives. But over at the US Mint? It was business as usual, or at least, that's what everyone thought. That year, millions of Washington quarters were minted for circulation at both the Philadelphia and Denver mints. On the surface, the 1986 quarter wasn't expected to be rare. It wasn't a commemorative release, and it wasn't minted in limited numbers. So why are collectors scrambling to get their hands on this coin today? Here's where things get exciting. Among the countless quarters produced in 1986, a few slipped through the cracks with critical minting errors, the kind of errors that weren't meant to happen, and that make collectors' hearts skip a beat. One of the most fascinating errors found in some 1986 quarters is the off-center strike. This occurs when the coin is not perfectly aligned during minting, causing the design to appear shifted or cut off. Sometimes part of the lettering is missing, or Washington's profile is way off to one side. These off-center coins are not only visually striking, but extremely collectible, especially when the date is still visible. Another error that turns an ordinary 1986 quarter into a collector's dream is the wrong planchet error. This happens when a quarter is accidentally struck on a blank meant for a different coin, like a nickel, penny, or even a foreign coin. These quarters are often the wrong weight, color, or size, making them highly desirable and rare. But let's not forget about double die errors. These are some of the most thrilling finds in the coin world. When the coin die itself shifts or is misaligned, it causes a doubling effect on the design, particularly in the text or numbers. Imagine looking closely at your 1986 quarter and seeing a clear double image on the words, Liberty, or, In God We Trust. That's not just a minting mishap, that's a jackpot. Now, let's talk about condition. It's no secret that most quarters from the 80s have seen decades of use. They've been jingling in pockets, passed through hundreds of hands, scratched, scuffed, and worn down. So finding a 1986 quarter in uncirculated or mint condition, with sharp details and a clean surface, is already rare, but when you combine excellent condition with a mint error, now you're in the realm of seriously valuable coins. These rare combinations are what collectors are always searching for. Coins that are unique. Coins that tell a story. Coins that aren't just money, but a piece of history, and what's truly incredible is how these treasures continue to pop up in the most unexpected places. People have found valuable 1986 quarters in coin rolls from the bank, mixed into inherited coin collections, or even in everyday pocket change. You never know where the next rare find is going to appear. So, let's get to the big question. How much can a 1986 Washington quarter actually be worth? Well, if you come across one that has a rare error, like a double die, an off-center strike, or was struck on the wrong planchet, and it's in pristine, uncirculated condition, you could be holding a coin that's worth a jaw-dropping $70,000. That's right. $70,000. From a quarter you might have spent on a candy bar years ago. This is why coin collecting is more than a hobby, it's an adventure. It's the thrill of discovery, the joy of history, and sometimes, the reward of life-changing value. So before you spend that next quarter, take a closer look. You might just be holding a treasure. Today, we're talking about a coin that might be sitting quietly in your old piggy bank, your grandparents' drawer, or even in your pocket right now. It looks just like any other quarter, but behind that simple appearance lies one of the most fascinating, and potentially valuable, coins in American numismatic history. Today's treasure? The 1972 Washington quarter dollar. Now, let's be honest. Most of us don't give much thought to coins from the 1970s. They're not particularly old. They're not flashy. And they were produced in huge numbers. But that's exactly why this story is so special. Because hidden among the ordinary lies the extraordinary. And the 1972 quarter is living proof. So let's rewind time for a moment. The year is 1972. America is in the middle of the Vietnam War, the Watergate scandal is beginning to bubble, and a gallon of gas costs just 55 cents. Meanwhile, the U.S. Mint is busy churning out coins at a rapid pace to keep up with growing demand. Millions of quarters were struck at the Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco mints, but as always, when machines move fast, mistakes happen, and in the coin-collecting world, those mistakes can mean serious money. Among the 1972 Washington quarters, a small number were struck with rare minting errors. And these are the ones collectors go crazy for. One of the most famous types of errors you can find on a 1972 quarter is the double die error. This happens when the die, the stamp used to create the coin's design, shifts slightly during the minting process, resulting in a doubled image. Look closely at the word Liberty or In God We Trust. If the letters look doubled or shadowed, that's not wear and tear. That's a valuable mistake. Then, we have the off-center strike. These errors occur when the coin is not perfectly aligned under the press, causing part of the design to be shifted or even cut off entirely. The more off-center it is, while still keeping the date visible, the more valuable it becomes. And yes, this happened with some 1972 quarters, but perhaps the most exciting error is the wrong planchet error. Imagine a quarter struck not on a quarter blank, but on a blank intended for a dime or even a foreign coin. These planchet mix-ups are extremely rare, and highly sought after. They often look slightly smaller, lighter, or may even have a different tone or edge. Now, rarity is one thing, but condition is another. And collectors are always searching for coins in uncirculated or mint state condition. That means no scratches, no wear, no discoloration, just a perfect, shiny, clean coin that looks the same as the day it left the mint. The challenge? Most 1972 quarters have seen decades of use. They've passed through countless hands, sat in car ashtrays, fallen between couch cushions, and lived in piggy banks across the country. So finding one that's not only rare, but in pristine condition, is like finding a needle in a haystack. But here's the exciting part. These coins do exist. They show up in estate sales, old coin rolls, forgotten collections, and yes, sometimes in everyday pocket change. All it takes is a sharp eye and a little bit of luck, and that brings us to the big question you've been waiting for. What's the value of one of these rare 1972 Washington quarters? Well, if you happen to find one with a major error, like a double die or a wrong planchet strike, and it's in flawless, uncirculated condition, you could be holding a coin that's worth an absolutely stunning $81,000. That's right. $81,000. For a single quarter. So the next time you're about to hand over some spare change or dig through that old coin jar, remember, one small coin can carry a massive surprise. Today, we're going to be talking about a coin that might seem like just another quarter in your pocket, but it could be worth far more than you ever imagined. If you're into collecting or just curious about how everyday coins can become rare and valuable, stick around because today we're uncovering the mystery behind the 1973 Washington quarter dollar. When we think of rare coins, we often picture ancient pieces, mint-condition gold coins, or commemorative editions that are limited in release. But what if I told you that a simple quarter from the 1970s, one that's been in circulation for decades, could be worth more than a house? Sounds crazy, right? But it's absolutely true. So let's talk about why the 1973 Washington quarter is one of those rare finds that could turn your coin collection into something truly remarkable. Let's set the scene. It's 1973. Richard Nixon was president, America was feeling the effects of the early 70s oil crisis, and the country was in the midst of significant political and social change. Meanwhile, the U.S. Mint was busy striking billions of coins, including the Washington quarter. Most of these quarters went into circulation and were used for everyday transactions. But within those millions of minted coins, some very special errors slipped through the cracks, making certain 1973 quarters incredibly valuable today. The first thing that makes the 1973 Washington quarter stand out is its rarity. While millions were produced, the real gems lie in a small number of these coins that were struck with minting errors, mistakes that weren't supposed to happen but are highly sought after by collectors. So, let's dive into what makes these mistakes so exciting. Point one of the most common, and highly prized, errors in the 1973 quarters is the double die error. What exactly is that? Essentially, when a coin is struck by a die more than once, and the die shifts ever so slightly between strikes, it can cause a doubling effect on the design. You might notice this most prominently on the word liberty or the motto, "In God We Trust." If the text appears blurry or doubled, you've got a true error on your hands. These coins are rare, and their value can skyrocket depending on how noticeable and pronounced the error is, but that's not all. Another error to look out for is the off-center strike. This occurs when the coin doesn't land perfectly in the press, causing part of the design to be shifted off the edge of the coin. The more off-center it is, the rarer and more valuable it becomes, especially if the date and mint mark are still clearly visible. These are the kind of coins that make collectors' hearts race. Imagine holding a quarter where part of Washington's face is cut off, or the lettering is askew. That's a coin that's not only unique but a treasure in the world of numismatics. The wrong planchet error is another minting mistake that occurs when a quarter is struck on a blank intended for a different denomination, like a dime or a foreign coin. These errors are quite rare, and when they do happen, they create a coin that looks slightly different from the standard quarter, sometimes smaller, sometimes a different color or weight. These wrong planchet coins are highly sought after by collectors who are willing to pay a premium for such a rare find. Now, I know what you're thinking. If these coins are so rare, how do I even find one? That's the million-dollar question. Well, here's the thing, finding a pristine, uncirculated 1973 Washington quarter with one of these errors is incredibly difficult. Most of the coins from this year have been in circulation for over 40 years, so they've been scratched, worn, and damaged. Coins that are still in mint condition, or near mint, are significantly more valuable than their heavily circulated counterparts. The better the condition, the more valuable the coin. Now, let's get to the fun part, the value. If you happen to stumble upon one of these rare 1973 Washington quarters with a major error, whether it's a double die, off-center strike, or wrong planchet error, and the coin is in pristine, uncirculated condition, you could be looking at a coin that's worth an astonishing $83,000. Yes, you heard that right. $83,000 for a single quarter. That's how much a rare 1973 Washington quarter, in exceptional condition and with a significant error, can fetch in the right market. It's crazy to think that a simple coin, the kind you might have spent without a second thought, could actually be a hidden treasure worth more than a brand new car. So, the next time you get your hands on some change, make sure to take a closer look at those quarters. The 1973 Washington quarter might just be the key to unlocking a fortune. Today, we're diving deep into the 1971 Washington quarter dollar, a coin that might seem ordinary at first glance but has some secrets hiding beneath its shiny surface. If you're a coin collector, or even just a casual enthusiast, this is a video you won't want to miss. Now, we all know that not every coin is destined for greatness. Most of the quarters that were minted in 1971 were used, passed around, and have probably faded into obscurity. But hidden among these hundreds of millions of coins are a small handful that can be worth far more than the face value, so much more, in fact, that they could change your life. What makes the 1971 Washington quarter so interesting? Well, it's not just a simple piece of change. It's a coin that carries a legacy from the early 1970s, a time of significant cultural and political change in the United States. The country was grappling with the end of the Vietnam War, the Watergate scandal was unfolding, and the economy was in a bit of a flux. The U.S. Mint was producing billions of coins during this era to keep up with the growing needs of the economy, and among all of these, some interesting minting errors were made that have turned the 1971 Washington quarter into a coin worth searching for. So, what exactly makes these 1971 quarters so rare and valuable? The key lies in the minting errors. Yes, those little mistakes during production that no one planned for but that collectors absolutely love. One of the most exciting errors you might find is the double die error. This happens when the coin is struck multiple times by the die, with the die slightly shifting between each strike. The result? A doubled image, often seen in the lettering or numbers. Take a look at the word Liberty or the date 1971. If you notice a shadowed or double-struck appearance, you're looking at a very rare and highly collectible error. Coins like these, where the doubling is clear and visible, can fetch a pretty penny, but the story doesn't end there. Another minting flaw you might come across is the off-center strike. This occurs when the coin is not properly aligned under the press, causing part of the coin's design to be shifted off-center. In some cases, the design can be so misaligned that parts of the coin are cut off entirely, making it visually distinct. The more off-center the coin, the more valuable it becomes, especially if the date and mint mark are still legible. These types of coins are incredibly rare, and finding one of them in good condition is a collector's dream. Now, let's talk about the wrong planchet error. This happens when a quarter is struck on the wrong metal blank, meaning a blank intended for another coin, like a dime or even a foreign coin. When a quarter is struck on a planchet that's not meant for it, the coin often comes out the wrong size or color. Sometimes, it might even look slightly different in weight. If you ever come across a 1971 quarter with these characteristics, it could be worth a lot more than just 25 cents. So, how do you know if you found one of these hidden treasures? It's all about the condition of the coin. Most 1971 quarters have been through a lot in the past 50 years. They've been spent, worn, and scratched, and many of them show signs of heavy use. But finding one of these coins in mint or uncirculated condition is what really boosts its value. The better the condition, the more valuable the coin. Now, here's the exciting part. If you find a 1971 Washington quarter that has one of these rare errors, whether it's a double die, off-center strike, or wrong planchet, and it's in pristine, uncirculated condition, you could be holding a coin worth a truly jaw-dropping amount. Are you ready for it? A single 1971 Washington quarter with a significant minting error, in perfect condition, could be worth as much as $78,000. That's right, $78,000. For a quarter. That's the kind of money you could be sitting on without even knowing it. It's a testament to how much collectors value these rare coins, especially when they have unique characteristics or historical significance. So, next time you get some change, don't just toss that quarter aside. Take a closer look at the 1971 Washington quarter in your hand. Is it perfect? Does it have any unusual features? It could be the next big find in the world of numismatics. If you enjoyed this video and want to learn more about the fascinating world of rare and valuable coins, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to our channel, and ring the notification bell so you never miss out on these incredible discoveries. You never know when your next coin might be worth a fortune. Thanks for watching, and as always, happy collecting.